Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 22nd chapter. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then Jesus said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then Jesus said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The Gospel of the Lord. If ever there was a text appropriate for a season, it is this one. We are less than a month away from midterm elections, and if there is one issue that every Democrat, Republican, and independent candidate can agree on, it is the promise that they will not raise your taxes, but their opponent will. While politicians may not be held in high esteem, they are fast learners. None of them can forget the 1984 acceptance speech of Vice President Walter Mondale, a good and decent man who said, "Let's tell the truth. It must be done. It must be done. Mr. Reagan will raise your taxes, and so will I. He won't tell you. I just did." His reward for such truth-telling? In the election, Mondale was defeated in a landslide, winning only the District of Columbia and his home state of Minnesota, and even there the margin of victory was less than 3,800 votes. He secured only 13 electoral votes to Reagan's 525. The result was the worst election defeat for any Democratic Party candidate in history, and the worst for any major party candidate since Alf Landon's loss to Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1936. Taxes are not, in our day, a touchy subject. Everybody hates them, even though we grudgingly acknowledge that they pay for roads and schools, police and fire, national security. We dislike them a lot. Most people don't think of them except at election time and tax season. Most of your taxes disappear from your salary like magic. And your once-a-year task at filing time is to try to find every deduction you can so you can get some of your money back. Some of us, however, are 1099 employees, and we have a much more hands-on relationship with our taxes. Every quarter, we have to sit down, fill out the form, and send in the amount our accountant has told us by writing a check to both the federal and the state departments of revenue. It is murder. We do it, we are told, and have come to believe, so that we will receive more deductions. We can only hope so, because writing that check is a painful process. It makes one realize, as very few things do, how much of your hard-earned income is going for some stuff you are glad to have, but for other stuff that either doesn't work well or you really don't want or need. But we don't have a pick-and-choose system of taxation, and neither did the people of Jesus' day. Let me be really radical and take Rome's side for a moment. They built an excellent system of roads that made the transport of people and goods as easy as it has ever been. Aquifers provided fresh water to the major cities. And the Roman army, while at times oppressive, made the country as safe from outside invaders as it ever was. And finally, this is surprising, but many of you will remember it, Rome, at the behest of King Herod, more corrupt than any politician our beloved state has ever produced, even financed the building of the Second Temple, which was the center of the Hebrews' religious and cultural life. The Roman reply to people who went to the tax office to complain might have been, "Hey, you want all this stuff for nothing?" It turns out that all that stuff came for quite a price. It was not monetary, but emotional. The Jews felt the land was theirs, not for some political reason, but because it had been given to them by God. The Romans could never provide enough goods and services to make up for the idea that they were seen by the Jewish people as an occupying force on God's good land. That's what makes the leaders' question to Jesus such a dangerous one. They are asking who they should be loyal to, God or Caesar. If he says they should be loyal to Caesar by dutifully paying their taxes, he would be in conflict with the religious authorities and the general population. In those days, he would probably receive less support than Walter Mondale did in the 1980s. But if he said, "Don't pay your taxes," he would be seen as a political revolutionary and a traitor to the state. It would have been a no-win situation if Jesus had not thought of one thing. The coin his adversaries produced was one of everyday commerce. Everybody used it. At that moment, Jesus may or may not have had one in his pocket, but even if he didn't, if he ever wanted to buy or sell something within the empire, which he certainly did, he would have had to use Roman currency. It was the coin of the realm. And nobody gave a second thought to whose image was on it. Few of us, off the top of our head, could name which dead president was on which denomination of bill or coin in our country. All we know is what the citizens of Jesus' day knew. If you wanted to buy something, you had to use the common currency. For most, the image and title on the coin, Tiberius Senior, son of the divine Augustus, was no more a confession of faith than the words, "In God we trust," is on our currency today. It was only a wedge issue if you wanted it to be. An artificial dividing line as to who you were loyal to. Jesus sees this and says something by his answer to all of us. Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And St. Matthew tells us they marveled at his answer. What caused their amazement? What caused them to go away wondering about Jesus' answer should give us pause to wonder too. The Jewish tradition, which is also our tradition, teaches us something that is far more important than whether or not we carry around graven images disguised as coins in our pockets. Perhaps what caused their amazement was the first line of the 24th Psalm. The earth is the Lord's, and all that is in it, the world, and all that live in it. What their faith tradition taught them, and what our faith tradition teaches us, is that that coin belonged to God. The empire ultimately belonged to God. The emperor ultimately belonged to God. You can be antagonistic about whose image is on the coin, but you can't be indifferent toward God. You can place the words, "In God we trust," on your currency or not. What matters most is whether those words have first place in your heart. We are not asked to keep God in some sort of equal balance with all the other demands on our lives, but to make sure that God takes second place to nothing or no one in our lives. I know this is a recurring theme in my preaching, but it's good to see it popping up elsewhere. United Methodist pastor Judas Johnson Devo wrote in the Christian Century about what replaces God in our modern loyalties. It really isn't even the state. She tells of a family that had been adamant that their children be baptized, but who then disappeared, only to reappear when it was time for them to be confirmed. When Pastor Siebold informed the parents that their young people, along with they themselves, were expected to be in worship as part of their children's preparation for membership, she reported that the mother looked at her in a most soothing and gentle way, and then went on to explain, as if the pastor were not a very bright child, we're committed for soccer and cheerleading for our youngest on Sunday mornings. We have a full plate, maybe in a few years. Sebald concluded, although the family could fit brief forays into religious rites, other activities were more important than a steady commitment to the church. I honestly think that what made Jesus' adversaries leave in such wide-eyed amazement is that he reminded them of something that they, in all their fussing and feuding, had totally forgotten. He reminded them that they and everything around them belonged to God. That Roman soldier over there, he may not have been doing what God would have him do every moment that he was on duty or off duty, but he still belonged to God. The roads, the waterways that were the products of Roman rule, they belonged to God. Everything, from the crown on the emperor's head to the coin in the most meager peasant's pocket, belonged to God. Every moment of life belongs to God. From the soccer field to the sacred altar. It all belongs to God. As our faith tradition reminds us, we can have no divided loyalties because we have been made in the image of God. God has stamped God's image upon us, and that makes this exchange between Jesus and his adversaries far more than a debate about taxes. It's about a loyalty between God and everything else. It's about whether we'll worship God or the lesser gods of this life. And it's a reminder that everything we were or are or ever will be belongs to God. So the choice is there for us. It's an amazingly freeing choice. It's a gracious choice. It's a choice between the things of this world and the things of God, which is everything that there is. Jesus reminds us, give it to Caesar, if it is his, and give everything that belongs to God, which is everything there is. And in so doing, your loyalties will never be divided.